Hey everyone, it's Austin Bach bringing you a holiday cube draft on Magic Online. Here we have our first pack, and lucky us, we opened two pieces of power. We've got a Time Twister and a Library of Alexandria, both of which are pretty good. They're on the lower end of the Power 9. Obviously, you'd rather have a Black Lotus, a Mox, or an Ancestral Recall, so in a way, we're unlucky that the two pieces of power we got were the worst ones. Between the two, I think I prefer the Library of Alexandria. Time Twister's fine, but it only goes in a very specific deck, and it's not really the types of deck that I enjoy playing. It's only good when you're ahead on board, essentially. So I think I'm just going to go with the Library here, which, is free to put in any deck, leaves us open to play any strategy, depending on what's open, and sometimes it can just win you the game randomly, so happy to have it. Pack 2 is the Jiraga Tree Speaker, which is similar to Soul Ring, if you are in green, obviously, so I could consider that. I do like it a little bit more than all of the 1-mana green accelerators. There's also a Mana War, which is okay, but the blue decks I tend to draft in Holiday Cube are more control-oriented than tempo-oriented, so I'm not a huge fan of Mana War. Other than those two, this pack's pretty mediocre. There's a Rakdos Cackler, which is a fine card in the mono-red deck. It doesn't go great with the Library. Library is pretty bad when you're dumping your hand every turn. But then again, I guess it's the same for green decks if you're putting out a bunch of aggressive 1-drops. Or accelerating 1-drops, rather. I'm leaning towards the Tree Speaker just because it's more powerful than Cackler. Obviously, if red's open, I would much rather have the Cackler, but I think I'm fine with the Tree Speaker here. Alright, now there's some options. So Monastery Mentor, which is a powerful card. If we drafted more of a slower, control-ish deck, you can run that out and then sit back on it and remove stuff and counter stuff. Could be a plan I'm into. Nether Void is also interesting, but it's similar to the other cards that I've talked about, where it's really only at its best when you're ahead. Like, if you're behind on board, Nether Void is like the worst thing possible. So I don't think I want to take it here. I could just take Scalding Tarn. I think blue and red are the two best colors in this cube, and they're the two colors that pair best with Library. If we drafted a slower blue control deck, I could see myself wanting Scalding Tarn, so I think I'm just going to take it here. There's nothing else I'm really hurting for. There's like a random Signet and some replaceable level cards, so I'm fine with that pick. Okay. There's a Jace Beleren. Nice blue control-y card advantage-y card. I'm into it. There's a Wildfire. We saw the Burning of Zinnia in the last pack. That's a card you can build around if you get it early enough and decide to prioritize different cards for it, but it's kind of hard to get that deck together in my opinion, and I'm just not a big fan of it. So I think I'm just going to take the Jace and potentially be some form of blue. I mean, we don't have to be control necessarily if we're playing Jace, but it is nice, especially with the Library. Sort of incentivized to go that direction. Alright, there's an Elspeth Knight Errant. It's another nice card if we're like blue-white control or something like that. But much like Jace, it can go into any white deck we play, so pretty safe pickup. It's also Arbor Elf, which is very good, and Glen Elender Archmage, which is really good as well, but I think it's a little bit worse than Elspeth. So even though we already have a blue card, and Archmage would make our deck if we were blue, I think Elspeth's just going to be better. So I'll take a slight risk on it. I like Bribery. I'll go ahead and put that in my deck. Nothing else really of note. There's a Recurring Nightmare, which someone will like, but not us. And some like good green and white aggressive cards. Other cards we can't use, so. Okay, now this is a good pack. Some good cards against blue-white control, Voice and Whisperwood. There's also a Vendilion Click and an Electrolyze, and Inferno Titan as well. We did take the Elspeth, but we could still be blue-red. I think Inferno Titan is very strong. Electrolyze is very good as well. In the same vein, if we end up in blue-red. So I think the safe pick would be Vendilion Click, but I'm going to take the Inferno Titan because it's more powerful, and it's just going to win most games we can cast it if we're in blue-red. It's just sort of the ideal finisher for a controlling deck. I kind of want to take the Sacred Foundry. There's also a Wasteland, which is very good, but Wasteland's less good when you're trying to hit all your land drops and control the board. So I think I'm just going to take this Sacred Foundry so that we can continue to take red and white cards and hopefully play some mix of them in our base blue deck. I like Baneslayer Angel. We'll just take that here. Could also take a Prophetic Flame Speaker, which is fine if we were blue-red, but Flame Speaker is a card, it's similar to Dark Confidant in that it incentivizes you to lower your curve as much as possible to increase your chances of being able to play it. So I'm not that big of a fan of it. Hey look, we wield the Rakdos Cackler. And I mean, I don't really want it now. I guess I'll take a Ranger of Eos. There's just nothing I care about here. So maybe if we end up with some random 1-drop or something, we can put that back in. There's a Zealous Conscripts, which is a decent top-end card if we end up blue-red. There's also the Burning of Xingye came back, which I guess is better if we have a bunch of Planeswalkers. So yeah, I guess I'll take the Burning of Xingye. I think I'm a little more likely to play that. I guess I could play War Priest of Thune if I end up in white. Pretty sure we're not playing green, so I'll go ahead and get that out of here. Goblin Guide, Leonin Arbiter, I'll just take the Arbiter. Isamaru. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure if we're going to be, what our two colors are going to be yet. We don't even know if we're going to be blue necessarily, although blue is where I'm leaning towards my base color being. Like, we don't really want this War Priest. We do have some good aggressive white cards on our sideboard. Maybe we want to put a more aggressive tilt to our deck, because if that's the way that the packs have been telling us to go so far. I think I'm just going to continue reading the packs and figuring out which direction my deck wants to go. Huh, how about a Mana Drain? I think that's a pretty good card that we should take and continue along our blue path. If that wasn't there, I would probably take Ugin out of this pack, followed by Sphinx's Revelation, which I'm hoping wheels. I would be not too unhappy with Soulfire Grandmaster either. Burst Lightning, I guess, if we decide to be red. I think I'm a little more likely to be blue-white than blue-red right now, but that's not a guarantee by any means. Depends a lot on what we see in this pack. But yeah, Mana Drain, easily best card in that pack, and it's great with what we have so far. Yeah, even though we have an equal number of red and white cards, I think Elspeth and Baneslayer are a little bit better than our two red cards. So we'll keep that in mind. I do like Elspeth Sun's Champion a lot. I also like Treasure Cruise a lot. But I think Elspeth is just sort of the game-ending threat we want, and a good reason to be white. And there's not a whole lot else in this pack that we're interested in. There's a Jace, which I like. There's a Wormcoil, which I like. But Elspeth is better than those two cards. So yeah, I'm hoping that one of these two blue cards comes back, but it's probably unlikely. As well as Wormcoil. So yeah, even though there's a ton of good cards in this pack, and I would happily take like 5 cards out of this pack if I could, we're just going to take the best one for us. Alright, there's an Emiria Angel, which is a fine mid-game threat. Goes good with our fetch land. It's a Solemn Simulacrum, which is pretty nice value. Ramps us up to our more expensive cards, and it could enable a splash if I decided I want to go for a greedy mana base, even though that's unlikely. So let's say if we cut these red cards, sort by mana cost. We are a little heavy on the 5 and 6 drops already. The Myria Angel is kind of awkward in that it's sort of a 5 drop, because if you just run it out on turn 4 and it gets killed right away, you get no value out of it. So you really want to wait till turn 5 to play it. So I think I value the Simulacrum a little bit more, and there's a reasonable chance this comes back around anyway. It's also Deceiver Exarch, but it's a card that you really want to be blue-red for, to have the opportunity to combo off. How do I feel about Narset? It is in our colors. We do have a pretty good number of non-creature spells right now. We don't have any good rebound targets at the moment. I think I'm going to take it here. There's also a Strip Mine, which is fine, but I like it less in controlling decks that are trying to hit 6 mana. I mean, I guess we could try to wheel the Narset and take the Strip Mine. No, I think I'm going to take the Narset. I just want to have as many value planeswalkers as possible. Okay. I like Oblivion Ring. Good removal spell. Could also take this Clifftop Retreat if I wanted to continue trying to splash red. But the problem is the 2 red cards we have right now are not easily splashable. You really want to have red as one of your base colors to be playing these cards, so I don't think we're going to be splashing it off of a couple lands. I'd rather just take the solid card that we know we want. I'm a big Force Spike fan. It's a nice early play. People rarely play around it, and it gets people pretty frequently, so I'm happy to have Force Spike. We are lacking sort of the early plays anyway. I'm looking for some Wall of Omens and Augur of Bolas type cards to fill out our early game at this point, because I like where we're at in the mid to late game at the moment. So Silumgar is a really powerful card. We could try to splash it. We have a Scalding Tarn already, so if we saw something like a Watery Grave or a Blood Crypt later, we could try to splash this guy. There's also a Fire and Ice, which is pretty strong, but the red side is much better than the blue side, so we would want to be splashing red if we had this. I think I'm leaning towards the Silumgar. It's going to be much better for our deck if we can splash it, so I'm just going to take it and possibly prioritize some cards like Caves of Koilos, for example, so that we can cast it consistently. Exalted Angel is really good, but we're looking pretty good in the mid-game finisher type cards already, so I think I just want to take this Misty Rainforest. Blue fetches are very strong. Like I said, if we do see one of those dual lands later that enables a splash for a card like Silumgar, we're going to really want fetches that can go get him, just to make our mana base more consistent. So a couple good cards came back here. Soulfire Grandmaster is a nice early play. If you can like buy back a counter spell, it's pretty strong. We don't have that many spells to buy back right now with it. Alternative is either Sphinx's Revelation or Drowned Catacomb. I'd be happy with any of these cards in my deck. Very interesting. I'm going to take the Sphinx's Revelation. Just because that's the best card of the bunch. Johnny Goldmane is not at its best in our deck. It's not very good in our deck at all. It's good with Elspeth, but if we have Elspeth and Johnny going, we can probably just get there with Elspeth by herself. So I think I'm going to take this Pithing Needle, because it's a very strong sideboard card once you know what your opponent's up to. Alright, a Myria Angel Wield. So yeah, this is kind of what I was talking about with all of the expensive cards. Now that we have pretty much everything we could ever want at 4 mana and up, it's going to really restrict what we can take later. Strip Mine Wield, that's nice. So I think I maybe should have taken the Soulfire Grandmaster there. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. I guess we have some cheap cards on our sideboard that we can play. Just like random bears that can block early. But anyway, I like where we're at right now. Nice little blue-white control deck. And we're going to be looking to fill out our deck with more super sweet cards and counter spells and whatnot in pack 3.